Merry Christmas, some of you Redditors. I have a present for you. Where is it? Oh.
Foot race to their sideline. Touchdown, Oregon!
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all wages, welcome to the show. It's a long time coming, is it not? And you're probably wondering why I'm wearing this very nice jacket here. Whoops. Let me readjust the camera. Very nice jacket. That's because today I thought I should dress for the occasion of standing on business. To the rest of you fans out there, I hope you had a great holiday, a happy new year, and a Merry Christmas. And I hope this year is going to get off to a great start. So far, it seems like it has for the Ducks, for the most part. Lots to cover. I don't have a rundown because this one was sort of off the cuff, given the beginning of the news cycle that took off drastically yesterday regarding the Ducks and Washington. But we will get to that later, so leave your comments below, like and subscribe this channel as well as the live stream. Let me take off this jacket though, because now, first off, it's very warm down here in Southern California after a few days of rain, some flash flooding and all that. But you need that range of motion when you're handing out belt to ass. But let's get started. First and foremost, I'll run you through my holidays. So, my holidays, I got a surprise gift, which were plane tickets to Texas to see my brother-in-law, my niece and nephew, and my parents to spend Christmas. So I spent a week over in Texas, and my flight was directly during the Oregon-James Madison game. I was able to catch a little bit of the start, and then I had to hit the refresh poll all flight because the Wi-Fi on planes are terrible unless you pay an arm and a leg to get the one you can get for streaming. And I elected not to. So I just hit the refresh, seeing the score updates as much as I could. Luckily, the plane, I should tell you the story, actually. My plane was supposed to leave at 9 in the morning, San Diego time. And I was delayed for 10 hours till 5 o'clock San Diego time. So that's why I caught some of the game before and then missed the middle from basically the second quarter to the fourth quarter. So the second and third quarter of that game, because that was during my flight. And then I caught basically the last half of the fourth quarter once the plane landed. So I would have originally been able to fly in the morning and then catch the full game on television when I got into Austin and then Waco. But unfortunately, with the delays, it made me miss most of the game, the JMU game. Then I had a good time. The first day that I was there after the travel day, it was a Sunday, so another portion of my Christmas gift was tickets to see the Chargers versus the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. Phenomenal stadium, great venue. This was the second time I was at that stadium, as I went to WrestleMania a few years ago when it was in Dallas, And I think it was like, almost 4 years ago now, I think, at this point. Felt like yesterday. But it was great to see that. It was great to see Justin Herbert and the Chargers get a win. My first ever NFL game. And it was a good time. I would have half expected my first NFL game to be a Seahawks or a 49ers game, because those are my top two teams and they were closest to me when I was a kid. But it never really panned out that way. And I gotta say, a Cowboys-Chargers game is not a bad beginning to seeing NFL games. I was very disappointed though, because the year that I moved to San Diego was the off season in which they moved to LA. And I was very excited to think, I'm going to have a NFL team in my backyard. Literally 10 minutes down the freeway from me right now. 20 minutes from where I originally moved in Chula Vista. And then they moved to LA. So that dream was sort of crushed, I suppose, on that. But it was nice seeing Herbert play in real time, in live and in living color, since I wasn't able to see him in Eugene either, because I had already moved to San Diego, and it's just hard to coordinate tickets and travel when your day-to-day life is 1,000 miles away sometimes. I try to make it happen, and I try to make it happen when the teams are playing in LA. But it's almost easier to get to Eugene on a flight than it is LA on the road sometimes, and it just never worked out. So that was fun, and then I came back the day after Christmas. Had to deal with some bank issues going on and fraudulent charges on my card. So that was pretty fun to deal with for my new year. And had a lot of stuff going on with my job, and not like a W-2 job, but just what I do outside of this. And unfortunately, that stuff takes precedent over this, because right now this is not making me any money. So obviously, in the name of professionalism, I have to do the stuff that would cost me money if it didn't make me money if I didn't do it. So I had to deal with some stuff like that. Never in my life, or I shouldn't say it that hyperbolic, but I certainly did not expect the amount of growth in my business in 1 year. It's always been a grind. Slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. And it, surprisingly, within the year has exploded in a way that I did not anticipate. I never really would have guessed. It's not necessarily a naivety thing or an issue of not thinking it would necessarily take off. I just thought it was going to be a slower burn. Get a few clients here, blah, blah, blah. Deal with there. Okay, use that as a growth point, like it always has been. Slow. And it's like bankruptcy. You know, it happens slowly and then all of a sudden, all at once. And that's what it was like this year. And so I was not expecting to be as busy as I thought I was going to be. But that is the first round of my apologies. This football season, I was obviously very inconsistent with my shows. I had planned on doing multiple shows a week, even. And obviously splitting them up too, where my preview shows would be happening before the games, and then my reaction shows would obviously be happening after the games. And those would actually be pre-recorded, and then I would do a live stream where every single one of you could add to the conversation. We can talk from there. Obviously, that did not happen with my role in the high school football season this year. I was not expecting it to also be as expanded as it has been versus what it was before, the past few years that I've done it before. On top of my freelance work and everything else, everything just kind of got in the way. And like I said, I had to prioritize those matters before this one. Maybe if my YouTube channel takes off and starts paying the bills, I can start saying no to certain gigs, which is the ultimate dream for most of us entrepreneurs, if you want to put it that way. My white balance seems a little off. Let's go ahead. See if we can warm it up. Nope, that's too cold. Let's see if we can warm it up a bit. There we go. Okay, good enough. Okay. So for that, I apologize. I'm hoping by the time next season comes around that will be different, and that I will be able to obviously be much more consistent next season. Maybe during basketball season, obviously, since football season has extended so far and as far as it has, I haven't really been paying attention this year. I know Oregon has been struggling in a lot of ways, but I haven't really been able to pay attention closely. Maybe, obviously, once football season comes to a close in mid-January, in a couple weeks, basically, that I can maybe do something from there. But also tune in for my other non-Oregon Duck / sports related YouTube content I will be putting out soon. I am also working on that. It's been on the back burner because of everything else that's been going on. So for that, I apologize. 2, I apologize. Well, we all have our dumb moments, and I will get to that in a little bit too. I have my dumb moments. Albert Einstein had his dumb moments, his stupid moments. Everybody does. And aside from spilling liquid on my computer mid-show a few episodes ago, when I tried to do the show after, I noticed that the audio was bad. It was not very good. And I think it was because my laptop computer mic was picking up more than this. And it like canceled out or whatever. I do not have a producer. I would like to get to a point in my life where I could have one so they can do all this stuff and I can just do my thing. But for now, I have to do it myself. I don't like wearing the earphones. And as far as having this dumb mic in the screen like every other YouTuber, that is the farthest I will go on that. Just kidding. But also, I don't want to be wearing headphones all day. And plus the monitor, when I hear it in the monitor, it sounds different than what's actually going on the show anyway. Because I'm just monitoring my levels from what I am feeding into this. It's not even what's really going on in the show with everything else going on too on the computer. So it's all kind of a moot point when all is said and done about what actually happened. So I can only know until after the show whether the audio sounds terrible. And then go from there. So apparently, though, when I had changed or, when I had saved the life of my laptop, for some reason the settings changed on my program here, my streaming program software, and didn't realize the setting changed from what it previously was, and thus continued on with my shows and stuff, and they were terrible audio. So hopefully this one is better, and hopefully that got remedied. I finally figured out the setting that changed, that needed to be changed finally. And I did, so I think I got it figured out. So we can hopefully move on from there, and you guys get a decent sounding show on top of that. And it also had to do to outside, because I had to take my computer to get fixed, and then I had to shoot after that. I had to basically tear down my entire setup and reset it up again. And my dumb head didn't think that the settings would change on my software when I reopened it for whatever reason. So I didn't even think to look at it, and I probably should have, I guess. And with everything else going on, though, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to sit there and tinker with it if I even knew something was off. Only way you can tell something's off is when you try it and then it's off, and you're like, okay, well, that sucked. So that is apology number 2 for that. Moving on. So that's enough apologies from me. I think that we will start off with why I opened the show that way. And I'm going to disclose to you why just now. Because unfortunately, this expands into the greater topic of the absolute roller coaster and the craziness and the distractions, a different kind of rat poison. 2 days away from the semifinals against Indiana, of all people, in the college football playoff. So, let's go ahead and start by discussing the
One race to their sideline.
Wrong one. There we go. The recent. Let me undo. I could have swore. There we go. I clicked on the layer. Oh, hello. There's me again. The recent, yesterday morning, I believe. Yep, yesterday morning. The Oregon Live article titled, "He's a legendary Oregon Duck. This fall, he'll be rooting for the Beavers." Now, who is this legendary Oregon Duck we're talking about? That is Kenny Wheaton. And the reason why he's rooting for the Beavers, long story short, is his son has committed to Oregon State this season. Kai Wheaton. And he was a 3-star out of Allen High School in Dallas, Texas. And he claims that he has no connection with Oregon now, and that he hasn't watched a game since the Pac-12 championship against Washington in 2023. Now, the context sort of this is I use to set my alarm clock to Oregon every time he plays, but I'm in dad mode thinking about what's best for Kai. I was giving my energy to the people that's giving energy to us. Now, the beginning of that sounds fair, right? You are supporting your son in his ventures. And of course, I think no one would begrudge anyone for supporting their son. Since he chose to go to Oregon State, of course, you're going to be repping Oregon State a little bit. But then there's this line. I was giving my energy to the people that's giving energy to us. That's a money line right there to look at. And then in this next paragraph, not out of bitterness for Oregon's lack of contact with Kai, Wheaton said the Ducks never even reached out with interest, let alone an offer, but out of unwavering support for his football journey regardless where it takes him. Now, this is in context to what he said here. His son was not offered. No reaching out. And therefore, he was giving his energy to the people that was giving energy to him. Apparently, Willie Taggart was the only one. So the claim here is Lanning, who has been pretty open about his open door policy with alumni. He leaves that door open. Now, this story broke yesterday. And I'm going to go ahead and show you something else. This here is a Get Ducked exclusive. Now in June, I posted on the Ducks Reddit of Kai Wheaton's commitment to Oregon State, and I titled it, "This One Kinda Hurts." And under the subline of that, or the byline of that, I said, "This one kinda hurts. We lost Kai and Kenny." Now, why did I say that? Well, first, I got absolutely lynched by the Redditard jackals for even saying that. "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. Blah, 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 blah. Kenny's ours forever. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Casual. All the dumb internet buzzwords you can hear. Right?" And I said, "Oh, this is nothing personal. He's not even that good of a cornerback." And I said, "I'm telling you, it's personal." And I got downvoted into oblivion. I said this in June when Kai Wheaton had originally committed. So these retarded jackals came all through the cracks and the nooks and the crannies and jumped all over me for saying that. And I'm going to tell you why I said that. I'm going to show you something else real quick. Let me go ahead and change screens here. Whoops. This bad girls here, those are clients. Okay. Let me find the screenshot. Whoops. Where are you? Come on, where are you? Nope, that ain't it. Oh my gosh, come on. Oh, whoops, hold on. I think it's in download. That's right. Here we go. Why can I minimize this? There we go. Minimize. Okay. Come on. Oh, goodness. Come on now. There we go. There we go. Here's why I knew that in June. Note. Let me move it down because I want you to note. No? Okay. Let me zoom out. There we go. Note the date. June 16th, 2025. Now, what did I say before I got this response? As you all know, I'm going to make a documentary called Chasing Ships, the Oregon Ducks and their quest for the national title. Link down below for the GoFundMe. I need some help on the production costs. And one of the guys that I interviewed for this particular documentary said I should change it to Duck Luck. And at this point, I'm starting to agree with everything in lieu of everything that's going on. But obviously, with as critical of a person that Kenny Wheaton is to the Oregon Duck program, I reached out to him to interview for my documentary. And in June, he made it a point to say this. Hey, how you doing? I thank you for thinking of me. Means a lot. Thanks for the kind words and the love, as he deserves. Right now, I'm not in a good place to talk Oregon football. I felt the staff was very disrespectful when it came to my son recruiting, based off all, in all caps, you mentioned. At this point, I have to say no. I just can't talk Oregon football. To say I'm pissed is being nice. Wish you the best on your project. Again, thanks for reaching out. Now let me go ahead and zoom out so you can verify that this is in fact Kenny Wheaton himself. And all you dummies on the internet call me dumb, not knowing anything, not knowledgeable. I have no credibility. I'm an idiot. I'm a casual. I'm a hater. I'm a blah, blah, blah. Whatever. The funny thing is, I posted on Reddit yesterday when someone posted the Oregon Live link and they said, here's the Oregon Live link to what Kenny Wheaton said, blah, 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 after the story broke on Twitter from Yahoo Sports. As Yahoo Sports aggregated the article from Oregon Live. And know what I said? I said, I tried telling y'all for months. You guys didn't listen. And guess what? The most funny thing is, I got downvoted still. So, if you guys are going to stand tall and stand on business in your stupidity, I'm going to in my genius. But guess what? It doesn't take a genius to realize when he tells me that, that's just the simple truth. This is the first time I posted this DM, by the way, because I did not think, one, I'm not a news chaser guy. I used to work in the news chasing industry. I don't want to do it anymore. And I was glad when they laid me off. Two, I didn't think it was respectful to Kenny to talk about a private conversation if he's not comfortable talking about it. And therefore, after this article leaked, or not leaked, but was released, I feel like he was probably comfortable enough to talk about it. Because he at least discussed the relevant subject at hand. And this isn't for me to gloat, and this isn't for you dumb internet trolls to be like, oh, I got under your skin. It's not getting under someone's skin when you're wrong. You're wrong. And I'm just pointing it out. Stay mad. I don't care. If I was an idiot 24/7, I'd be mad too. Why would I be mad? I'm right. I was right. Fucking idiots, man. Like, you retards can come after me like piranhas in the Amazon River, but guess what? I was right. I had the truth on my side. Why would I be mad about it? You're the one who's wrong. You want to double down on it? That's fine. Why would I be mad? Who cares? It's just fun clowning on some of you. That's all. That's not insecurity. That's not being mad. That's not having trolls get under your skin. Like, what fucking 8-year-old logic, internet logic is that? I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. That's all it is. And you think that gets people mad? You're the one who looks like an idiot. Why do I care? I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm just going to keep pushing the matter to make you look more like an idiot. That's all it is. But in all seriousness, I have multiple, and some of them are conflicting thoughts about this. Number one, I am sad because here's the thing. I don't know. Well, let's start off by saying this. Obviously, when I got that direct message from Kenny Wheaton, the commitment with Kaya just happened. And basically that was sort of all but confirming that Oregon had no interest in following up on Kenny Wheaton's son. So I think at the time it was fresh. So yeah, he probably was pissed. And like he said, being pissed was putting it nicely. I think that obviously as time has passed, he's probably gotten to the point where he has moved on. And so now what is anger, being angry, is now apathy. And like I said, over the summer and the off season, it hurts. Because Kenny Wheaton made Oregon. And I know he's humble enough to not admit that. And he gives Jaya Figueres more praise. By the way, this is Washington 94. Washington, Oregon 94. I thought I should put it up there in regards to the Kenny Wheaton situation. This one hurts a little bit because Kenny Wheaton made Oregon. Like I said, he probably won't admit it, but the bottom line is, if he didn't make that pick, who knows where Oregon would be today. That's why I wanted, obviously, to get him in the documentary, because it was probably top 3, if not the most important, significant plays at the Jumbotron before and after every damn game at Autzen Stadium. So it's sad to see someone like that who feels that way about what happened with his son. And I understand supporting your son. Like he said in that article, if he went to USC or Washington, I don't know why he keeps picking rivals, if you will, we'll say. But basically his point was anywhere else in the nation where he ended up, he would be rocking that. So it's a little annoying, too, that he ended up going to Oregon State, one of our rivals. But Marcus Wheaton, his cousin, went there. There's enough of a connection where it makes sense. But I'm not just talking out of my ass to some of you dumb fucks, huh? This is so much fun. This really is. So much fun. To be able to throw this in your stupid faces. Anyway. Kenny Wheaton. He is probably one of, if not the top players who, whenever he comes into Oregon, he should never, ever, ever be told no. He should get his dinner and his drinks paid for at any restaurant in Eugene. Everyone, if Kenny says jump, everyone says how high. He is that guy. He is that dude in Eugene. So I understand what he feels like. Not feeling he's getting the respect he deserves. So in regards to that, I think that amends need to be made with the athletic department. And what I mean is the athletic department needs to make a mea culpa big time. We are so sorry, man. At this point, who cares? Just give him an offer. He might be a 3-star. He might be the 1200 best DB in the nation. Just give him an offer. Or at least contact him. You don't want to burn that bridge. They should be groveling to make amends, to not burn that bridge. Something needs to happen because I'll tell you what. Part of the reason why my friend wanted to help me change the title of my documentary to Duck Luck, because it's sort of our sarcastic term, like the luck of the Irish, in reference to the rest of the news that will be discussed later. Oregon has a history of being a snake-bit football program. Something gets in the way. World War I, World War II, injuries, deaths, coaching changes, transfer portal. Something always comes up that got in the way of them winning the big one. And Kenny Wheaton was that guy that helped get the poison out. Like I said earlier, who knows where we would be today without the pick and Kenny Wheaton? Will we be as far as we are today? Will we be farther? Who knows? But the bottom line is probably not as far as we would have gotten today. His pick let the world know who Oregon is and who they're going to become. The little engine that could became the unstoppable, immovable train for the most part. Again, still got the snake bites. What have I said all season and the off season? Dan Lanning not only has to go for championships, he has to exercise the demons. Which is why I always mention that when some might come back up. Beat Ohio State 2 times in a row. One with crystal ball, but, Oregon as a program beat Ohio State 2 times in a row. Dan Lanning at that point did not let the Ohio State demon get on his back. Then, of course, the Rose Bowl happened. So who knows? We might have that demon back. His first couple of years coaching. Had Washington. Added that on his back. Oregon went 12 years in a row, then sort of back and forth in between time. Then it was 3 in a row that Oregon lost to Washington. 2 of them in the same season. Now we're 0-2 against Indiana since 2004. And Indiana was not as good of a team in 2004 than they are today. So there's a monkey on his back potentially with that. It's heading in that direction at least. So not only is he trying to win a national championship, which now in this expanded playoff format is harder than it was before, for sure. But he's also having to exercise some demons in the process, which is just as hard. Doing that all at once. He came into a program that has been snake bit in one way or another. Kenny Wheaton was one of those guys that saved the life of the program in terms of getting enough poison out to get that person to the hospital to get the rest of it out. There's still some poison left in. And that poison is winning a national championship. So yeah, out of respect, man, you should be kissing his ass left and right. And again, he's too humble of a guy to even say that. And maybe to a fault that he hasn't really communicated with, and he waited till now, basically saying sayonara to this point. And again, it's, if any of you have ever been through a breakup, you remember you start off angry at first, and then once that anger surpasses, you just don't care anymore. But that not caring anymore sort of hurts more in the breakup than when you were angry at each other. Because when you were angry at each other, at least you knew there were some feelings there still. And I think Kenny Wheaton kind of knows that, to be honest, to get under the skin of everybody, to say there's no connection anymore. Because how it is hard to not have a connection the way that the connection that he has had. Athletic department needs to do something about this and rebuild that bridge. But, like I said before, I have conflicting thoughts. Because on the flip side, I do also think that Kenny is being a little salty. And that I do agree in general that, again, Kenny Wheaton was a 3-star. That's kind of how Oregon was back in the day. Times have changed, man. Times have changed. Cream of the crop, and then once you get on campus, it's the cream of that crop. And the times and the process has changed, where once you're getting the cream of the crop in the transfer portal and in high school, Oregon now is, and they have chances. It's funny he mentions Willie Taggart, who contacted Kai. Willie Taggart has sort of been credited as the guy that sort of showed that you can get 4 and 5 stars in Eugene. And as a program, we have been known to take 2 and 3 stars and make them somehow end up playing against Auburn competitively. So again, on the one hand, I'm like, dude, just give him an offer. Get him on the roster. We'll see what he can do. Maybe he's a 3-star that overperforms the underperforming 5 stars. That happens all the time. But 2, also, it's like, I also agree with the concept that, man, just because you're a legacy, you're not guaranteed on the roster or the son of a legacy. I understand that, but again, it's not hard to make an offer. So it's like Kenny Wheaton, in his frustration and his anger, is lashing out at Oregon. And what people forget about bridges burning is there's 2 sides to every bridge. And it goes in tandem with my dad, what my dad used to always say. There's 2 sides to every story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Kenny is burning his side of the bridge too, not just the athletic department. Because to a lot of people, it comes off a little petty that this is sort of his way of lashing out at feeling disrespected by Oregon. And again, I'm not even arguing that he shouldn't feel disrespected. In a way, he kind of is, yeah. And in another way, he's not really helping the matter. I think if everyone gets in the room and talks it out, it would all work out. Because here's the thing. The fans, there's nothing that's going to take away their love for Kenny Wheaton. Even now. Unless he were to do something incredibly horrific, unforgivable. Like I said, the way Kenny Wheaton stepping foot in Eugene, everyone should be saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. How hard can I kiss your ass, sir? And a lot of the fans are willing to because of what he's done for this program. We're all talking about building a statue for Dan Lanning when Oregon finally wins his national championship. There should already be a Kenny Wheaton statue outside of Autzen. And nothing should ever change that. I and other fans have the utmost respect and reverence for Kenny Wheaton. And that's why I would want so hard for this not to be an issue. Because I know that even now, especially now, if he stepped foot back in Autzen Stadium on the sidelines, the fans would go berserk for him. He is a beloved person. And I don't want him being the scorned ex that ruins that for the fans. He is such a cataclysmically imperative and important person into Oregon football history. You cannot lose that as a program. Even if you're blasting off into the future, quote unquote, moving on and all that, blah, 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 innovation, blah. It is so important to have your historical figures, especially while they are alive and kicking. It's like Michael Irvin on the sidelines in Miami. To have a guy like Kenny Wheaton on our side still, he should be ride or die just as much as we are for him. And it wasn't the fans that drove him away. It was the athletic department. Kenyon Barner is a ride or die. LaMichael James is a ride or die. Jeff Schwartz is a ride or die. George Reister is a ride or die. He even came out on Twitter and said, this is the exact opposite experience that I had at Oregon. I have zero issues, zero problems. He is an Oregon homer through and through, and he played in 2001, 2002, whatever, 2000 to 2002 with Joey Harrington. He was one of my favorite players in that era, actually, because he was a lovely jumping off point from Justin Peele and Tim Day. Just phenomenal player, especially for a tight end. Why is the guy, the one who has been scorned in terms of Oregon history? And it is well known that Dan Lanning is very welcoming of these old players. So it is kind of like, Kenny, why you playing this off? As like, oh, they didn't want me. It's like, well, if you showed up, they would. So again, it's very conflicting for me, at least, because I will always like Kenny in any sort of way. Like, again, there is very little that he could do to sour me on Kenny Wheaton. I am only saying this as a warning to say, hey, man, not just to Kenny, but to the athletic department, dude, let's not say or do things we can't come back from. Because how devastating is that to lose arguably the most important player in Oregon football history, if not top 3. I say top 3 because if you go deep into the early 20th century, you could make the historical argument, blah, blah, blah. But even then, he's probably still topping all of them because of what he did on that one play. But his impact was more than just that one play, too. I'm just saying, in the history books and what makes the history textbooks, you know what I mean. That one play. I don't care. Like I said, he is the guy where it's like, even if he feels scorned and you don't agree with it, or you don't think that you think that he's just being salty and it's all 100% his fault, which I don't believe, by the way, you still say, you know what? We messed up. Let's make it right for you. We apologize for the disrespect. Because again, he's a very quiet, humble, nice guy or whatever. It takes a lot for a guy like him to come out and say that publicly. Or even privately to someone like me. We need to get him on the sidelines. We need to get him talking to people, former players, athletic department, anything, man. Anyway, for now, I am going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial, and we will discuss the rest of the news going on today before we lead into sort of the Indiana Peach Bowl and all that stuff going on. But without further ado, let's cut to commercial and call it good real quick for now, and we will be right back.
Hey, go get him. Go punch him in the mouth on play one, okay? Go get him out. Go get him right.
Hey, if you can't do, we can't do. 1, 2, yeah. Right? Remember that feeling last season, these past 3 weeks. All right, let's go. We love you.
She is a 2-year member.
and we are back. God love you, Kenny Wheaton, honestly. I really hope that it's all pans out so you can be in Eugene again, at least in some capacity. I'm not going to say you can't support the Beavers because we have a lot of platypuses in our family and the rest of the community as a whole. My brother-in-law and my sister are diehard Beaver fans. My brother-in-law since he was born, and my sister since she started dating my brother-in-law. And they live in Eugene in the same neighborhood as Dan Lanning, and they go to the same community events and churches and all that as Kenny Farr, the equipment manager. So they are deeply ingrained into the duck community, and they like everyone that's a part of it. And they're Beaver fans. So there's a lot of crossover, houses divided, all that good stuff. So on and so forth. So it would be nice to maintain that relationship. Very important one in my opinion. I will be in the room to facilitate that if I have to. I know all your Reddit dummies and all the rest of the people on the internet want to jump down my throat for saying anything like that, but guess what? Too bad, because I was right and you were wrong. I just love being able to constantly point that out. That's all. So, with that news, let's go on to the other news of the day, I guess. Again, I'm not really trying to be a news guy, but this sort of is in relevance to the upcoming game against Indiana and just sort of the program as a whole as we look forward to the rest of the postseason and then the offseason and into next season 9 months from now. So, Jaleel Florence committed to Missouri. We all sort of knew that already. But that one was a bummer too because his issue was just injuries. And his injuries lasted too long where unfortunately a lot of other guys were coming up behind him and outplaying him, I guess. But Dalen Austin suddenly transferred for some reason. Kingston Lopa transferred. Sione Laulea. Solomon Davis. DeJuan Riggs again. Jane Lamar. So, we took big hits on our DBs. Our DBs aren't as deep as they were at the beginning of the season. This is quite a long season, isn't it? Only made longer by the layoffs. The long layoffs. So, we went from having a very deep defensive back room to now being thin. And then Mekhi Hughes, we all kind of expected. DeJuan Riggs, Jaden Lamar, and Jay Harris are now in the portal. So now we are left with Whittington and De'Aaron Hill because everyone else went to the transfer portal and Jordan Davison is now out with a broken clavicle. So we are basically down to 2 running backs when we had 3 deep starting and getting monumental and significant carries in games. And then we had 3 more guys who were depth pieces for if any of those guys went down. And of course, aforementioned in terms of our snake bitness, we have a guy go down and we lose all our depth pieces. Not we, but you know what I mean. The team loses their depth pieces. When we needed them the most. Now there's 2 different things going on. One in relation to the college football playoff, the scheduling and all that. I don't care how it needs to be done. whether they need to make sure that every college is now either on the quarter system or the semester system, whichever way the academic calendar can be standardized and made sure everyone follows it, or they just adjust the calendar of the season to start earlier in the season and end earlier in the season, like Dan Lanning says, where the last game, the national championship game, is played on New Year's Day. That way, it all starts and ends at the same time for every college, no matter what system they use. Because here's the thing. I went to a university in Oregon. They are under quarter system. Based on the quarter system, my classes started September 27th. September 27th. Already 4 to 5 weeks into the college football season. It does not matter if Oregon schools or schools that are also in a quarter season, similar enough to Oregon, that they play a 6th game outside of classes starting. So if they have to move up in August to make sure it matches up at the end of the season, doesn't matter for the quarter system teams because they're already playing when school's not in session yet. And with the semester teams, you're already in school and playing anyway. It doesn't matter. Moot point. Because you cannot get to the point where the transfer portal opens up right before a semifinal football game. When your team especially is in the semifinals. NFL doesn't do it outside of trades. They cannot become free agents or whatever, request to trade. They still have to finish out the season unless something contractually happens where they have to pay a certain amount of money or they take a pay cut. All sorts of that's not available in college football right now. So, either these colleges need to start building contracts where things like that are built in, where it's like, hey, if you transfer, you got to give us a slice of the money that we gave you. This is also what me and my dad talked about a few months ago when I had him on the show. There needs to be some sort of regulatory apparatus where that stuff cannot happen, where there's consequence-free transferring in the middle of a postseason run. Guys like Austin, Loyola, Kingston Lopa, Lamar, Mekhi Hughes even. All these guys, you do not know how important they are during the playoffs until you need them. And they're able to just leave. I understand that they might want to leave after the season. But man, you got to finish out the season that you committed to. You got to honor your commitments sometimes. Now, again, I still generally side with the players. But also, there are times too where players got to call out other players. And build that discipline or that attitude within the players, the player coaches, if that's what they're called usually. And clearly that's not really necessarily being developed because, granted, there's only so much power some of these players have, but the attitude is that you can sort of leave anytime you want. But I also don't blame the players in that. The calendar is a calendar. They have to transfer when they can transfer. Especially now that we're down to one transfer portal window. I believe they also closed the spring transfer portal window. That was the one they closed for whatever reason. Like, spring would theoretically be the better option given the calendar we have now. But the quick fix to that and the fix to everything is the calendar. So then these guys can finish out the season and transfer when they want to transfer. These guys that want to transfer, look, It's either going to work out for them or it's not. And they're the ones that got to live with that choice. So I don't really begrudge them for making those choices. But the ripple effect that it has right now on teams is not good at all. Because here's the thing, this is what happens like on the internet business model. They give you the illusion of choice, so you can transfer, but you can only transfer during this time. And you pin these guys into making bad decisions. And bad decisions in the sense of, I bet some of these guys didn't want to leave during the postseason run, but they had to if they were going to transfer. Because a lot of these guys also, like I said, always, cash or creative. And in football terms, creative is playing time, because then that playing time also leads to greater cash than what they were getting if they were just getting money sitting on the bench. Poors like us just think, ooh, bag, let's get the bag and just sit on the bench. Yeah, because that's your mindset. These guys' mindsets are different. Did Kenny Wheaton gonna score happen yet? No, not there yet. Anyway. But even then, I still, even if they were transferring, I still believe that some of those guys probably didn't want to transfer until the end of the season. But they really don't have a crazy amount of choice. Let me verify that, though. Transfer portal window 2026. Yeah. So the primary transfer portal window is from the 2nd of January to the 16th of January, with special extension from the 20th to the 24th for teams in the national championship game. See, national championship college football, the 19th. So they had to either bank on getting to the national championship game, so then they can then get the special extension to the 20th or the 24th, or play in the Peach Bowl, not really necessarily know that they're going to get to the national championship game, and still really only have till the 16th. And then even if you do get to the national championship game, you still only have like a week after that to decide whether you want to transfer or not. The point is the timing of these windows are terrible. You're forcing people's hands at making decisions that they can't really make because nothing has really happened yet. You have a huge long layoff in between the playoffs. And then the playoffs happen, and it's right to the last second of when the transfer portal window ends. Not even opens, ends. January 2nd. That's right after quarterfinal games. And you're expecting these teams to try to make a playoff run while trying to make the decision to transfer? So you get crap like this where half of your depth for a team playing in the semifinals is lost. Now, this is not a pre-made excuse for Oregon to lose to Indiana. It just makes the uphill battle more difficult, that's all. And this is a very, very, very significant game for Oregon as a program. Again, like I said before, Dan Lanning has a developing demon he has to exercise that he can't let develop in Indiana. And this is a semifinal game. This is as some people would describe, a shit or get off the pot moment for Dan Lanning. This is year 4, year 2 of them making the playoffs. They lost in a bad way last year to a team that likely should have made a national championship run, and they did not. Now we have his recruiting classes, people that he's built up and developed, making a better than expected playoff run right now. And then you have a team like Indiana who seems to be a team of destiny right now. And they got your number clocked for now. I'm still not being defeatist when it comes to the Peach Bowl, because now is the moment of truth. It's a cliche for a reason, win or go home. And do you want to go home to a team like Indiana right now? No. Indiana might win a national championship before Oregon. That's what's on the line at this game right now. That's insane. And Kirk Cignetti would have done it in year 2. Everyone sort of thought last year was a bit of a fluke, another magical thing, but they just got even better. And Oregon necessarily didn't underestimate Indiana when they played in the regular season, but again, everyone sort of thought Indiana was a fluke last year, and I don't think anyone necessarily thought Indiana was going to be even better this year. And they were, and they are. And after the Penn State game, we all thought was going to happen in terms of how good Penn State is and who Indiana is. Those games should have been inverted in terms of the preparation. The season is long. It's been a long season, so no one really expected also Penn State to end up like Penn State ended up. But you know what I mean. We did not expect the pageantry, the results of Penn State's season behind the pageantry of the Oregon-Penn State game. Whereas the turnout of the Oregon-Indiana game probably should have had the pageantry that the Penn State-Oregon game had. But Oregon, I think, went up to or went past the expectations of fans so far this year. It would just be nice to get... Here's the thing. I don't know about you. I know for me, if Oregon makes it to the national championship game, I don't want them to lose again. I can't do 3 national championship games and 3 losses. And I know a lot of people are saying the Oregon-Indiana game at this juncture is the national championship game. But the problem is, on the way the bracket's working out, it's not. And that's why you play the games. Everything looks like a crazy uphill battle for Oregon right now, but that's why you play the games. Because everyone right now on paper is saying Oregon's going to lose. Who knows? They might, but they also might win despite the adversity. That's why you play the games. Now everyone thinks Oregon's a shoo-in to win it all if they beat Indiana, because then it's either Miami or Ole Miss next. But again, that's why you play the games. But I'm telling you, I can't do 10 years in between, 5-10 years in between national championship games, finally getting there again, climbing that mountain again, and losing again. We are always this damn close every time. Last second field goal at Auburn. Well, we got trounced, and I still maintain that we necessarily didn't belong. We got there. We earned our way. We had no business playing against that Ohio State team. But there were seasons where we also were the team of destiny like Indiana, and we fell short. For whatever reason. Injuries, whatever reason. There's always a reason that comes up. This is another demon for Dan Lane to exercise. The injuries, the transfers, the players not being able to be on the field that you would like on the field. Now, here's the thing. And this sort of goes into the roller coaster playoff run that I've been discussing about Oregon that's in the title of this episode. And the roller coaster was not only in the recent news of all the people on the roster we've lost, but the way they sort of played. Because against JMU, while I was hitting the refresh, I was like, why is suddenly JMU scoring a lot? And there's a tried and true excuse of, well, these are all the backups. The backups are in. Because here's the thing. The JMU game was a tale of two separate games. When I took off on the plane, it was euphoria. It was euphoria to watch. I'm sure it was euphoria to be at the game. It was amazing. What was it, 34-6? The defense was playing well. The offense was torching JMU. It was nothing. There was nothing to hate about that. Everything to love. And then the second half happened. Oregon scored what? Let's see, 17 points in the second half. And then JMU scored 28 unanswered. Now, of course, the excuse is somewhat measurable in saying that, oh, it was second and third stringers in the game, that's why. But there's the other side of the coin. That's no excuses. The second and third stringers are 4 and 5 stars as well. And they should not have been able, or they should not have given up 28 points in the second half to a G5 school. Even if they were second and third string depth piece people, as 4 and 5 stars out of high school, y'all should still be beating them up pretty good still. And I'm not going to watch Ducks versus them this time around. It's fun in the regular season, but I think in the postseason, I'm just not going to buy into that sort of pageantry yet. Because right now it's about winning and continuing on. And I know Oregon's doing it, so it sounds lame for me not to because I'm not a player. But I'm just saying I don't want to buy into the hype right now. This is serious. It's really not. But, okay. I'm not going to do that just for now. But I'm going to pull up, actually. Well, I'm not going to. The end of the Ducks versus them, I only saw that one clip. The end of the Ducks versus them versus JMU, basically landing was like, so we all had this talk about the standard. Let's start playing to our standards. Now, I'm sure what didn't make the final cut was the absolute ass chewing that Lanning gave the team about their second half performance against James Madison. I'm sure there was spit flying and eye whites were showing. Because, like the rest of the teams in the semifinals right now, Dan Lanning is from the Nick Saban coaching tree. And if you want a glimpse into the Nick Saban coaching tree, I am going to pull up this clip, though. And I play this all the time. And how many times have I been saying at the beginning of this season and during the off season, talking about playing to a standard and what is your team's standard? And here is what I'm going to show you. And I'm going to first unmute And then I'm going to play the clip. Now, let's go ahead and look at the context of things here for a bit. Okay. This here is the third BCS title game in 4 years for Alabama. A.J. McCarron is working on his third. I believe his entire college career, he won 3 national titles with Alabama as quarterback. It is 7 minutes left in the football game. Alabama is up 42-14. Second down and 6. Okay, this game is all but over. Now let's see what A.J. McCarron does on this play. Now let's go ahead and here we go.
Yes. Second down now. And timeout by McCarron. And he's upset with Barrett.
That is A.J. McCarron's center and roommate.
Boy, that is highly unusual. I thought for a moment it might have been team, but you can't have a scene like that out there.
Just so you understand, they're upset because they're both making calls, and McCarron's trying to overrule Barrett Jones, and Barrett Jones is saying, I'm making the call.
Before the timeout signal, delay a game.
So
Offense, a 5-yard penalty.
they both do so much at the line of scrimmage when it comes to making the checks up there. Oh boy, see, there he goes.
Oh, now he's very upset now. Understandably, the two kids you just saw are roommates. All right, Barrett, that's it. Sorry about that, my good friend.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad McCarron came down to him.
All right, so what does that clip show you? They were up 42-14, 7 minutes left in the national championship game, their third one. There's plenty of clips of Nick Saban being up 60 points to Alabama Barber Community College. It's probably in week 9, knowing who the SEC is. Screaming and yelling, calling timeouts, yelling at his players, just as much as A.J. McCarron did right there. That is because they are playing an Alabama Nick Saban standard of football. It does not matter how big you are winning. You play to the standard of your team. When Duck fans say FIBU, who do you think or what do you think that means? It means you play your game. No matter what. Because you have a type of game that you play. And if you don't play up to that type of game, you get your ass chewed out like you did probably at the end of JMU. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that some of those transfers might have been the recipients of that said ass chewing, and maybe that's why they transferred too. So, we do not know the reasons and the causes for it. The problem is, obviously, is the timing. I am very wary of this game that is coming up on Friday. And I will go into the reasons why after this quick commercial break.
Y'all know myself good? Hey, go get him. Go punch him in the mouth on play one, okay? Go get him out. Pick up, get him right.
Hey, we can't do, want to. Yeah. Right? Remember that feeling last season, these past 3 weeks. All right, let's go. We don't need...
She is a 2-year member.
fumble.
All right, welcome back to the show. So Indiana, Oregon on Friday. Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Oregon responded very well against Texas Tech by pitching a shutout. The first shutout in a bowl game for Oregon since 1917 when they beat Penn State 14-0 in the Rose Bowl, which should have been their second in a row national championships at the time. But I believe they went with Michigan that year. I think it was the third Rose Bowl game of all time. Another snake bite in the history of Oregon football. Anyway, if you want to say East Coast bias isn't a thing, go ahead and talk about the history of the West Coast teams, not just Oregon. Anyhow, so Oregon's defense responded, I think, to that ass chewing in JMU game and pitched a shutout at Texas Tech. Now, say all you want about Texas Tech and them being in the Big 12 conference. First and foremost, their defense is legit no matter what conference they're from. They put Oregon's offense to the test and largely passed that test, but really with a lot of copying the homework of the defense, really, because Mateo had an incredible play, a strip sack or a pick. I don't know really how they want to put it in the stat line, but I think they'll call it a strip sack. A strip sack where the ball never touched the ground, and he almost scooped and scored it. And then the offense punched it in the next play with Davison, that we don't have for Indiana. I would rate that as an A-plus performance by the defense. Mateo showed up. Tatum continued his breakout year, getting a few sacks, a few key sacks as well. Key sacks that took Texas Tech out of field goal range and preserved the shutout. And Finney got his groove back. He had a few plays where he struggled, or a few games where he sort of struggled, and really only struggled in the Finney struggle where he wasn't as dominant as he was before. But he had a fumble recovery from the Bryce Betcher forced fumble in Texas Tech territory. He had 2 interceptions and 1 in the red zone that preserved the shutout as well. He was the defensive MVP of the game. He had incredible answers to the interview. I love his attitude. I always knew from day one after seeing his tape last year he was going to be a dude. I'm so glad to see that he is, for lack of a better term, living up to the hype and really kind of exceeding the hype. Best cornerback, freshman cornerback in the country, in my opinion, and likely the best cornerback in the country through all the classes, in my opinion. And I don't really want to say overliving the hype, but I just say because he didn't get really a whole lot of press. He got some, obviously, and a lot of people knew he was going to be a good player, but that's why I say he outplayed his hype, because he didn't really get much. And so what people saw of him was like, oh man, this guy really is him. So I was really, frankly, it's hard to say this with all the people that have come through player-wise for Oregon, but that was probably the best overall defensive performance I have ever seen on an Oregon football field. Not just the postseason, but really of all time. At the very least, for a long time. That was the type of defense that we as Duck fans have been wanting to see forever. For as long as some of them have been alive, as those fans have been alive, they've wanted to see that type of defense. Now, the offense, on the other hand, played well enough, but it certainly was a stark contrast to the JMU performance. Now, that goes to show, though, that Texas Tech's defense was legit. They were dudes as well, and that was money well spent on that side of the roster for sure. And sometimes, like I've said this in the Indiana game, so there on offense there were a lot of unforced errors and not a lot of drives finished. And sometimes there are defenses that are good enough to help along those unforced errors and those unfinished drives. And Texas Tech was kind of one of those teams. But that's why you need a good defense to help the other team stop scoring. I know this sounds simple, but I've had to explain this to Duck fans for a long time, that defense, even in today's world, in today's game, defense wins championships. And that's how you win those championships. You make sure you absolutely stymie the other side of the ball when you are on defense, to give your offense some room to breathe when they are struggling. Because all you have to do is score more points than the other team. So if you keep that other team from scoring any points or scoring as many points as you, you've done your job as a championship level defense. Now, with Indiana, you are going to need an A-plus game from your defense again, and the offense needs to have their A-plus game that they had against JMU against Indiana. They cannot perform like they did against Texas Tech, for sure. Because Indiana, like I said, is, again, one of those teams, aside from being a team of destiny, they are also the most disciplined football team I, again, have ever seen or have not seen in a long time. So on offense, you need to be able to put up points every time you get the ball. And on defense, you have an autistic quarterback on the other side of the ball that is made for talking about dinosaurs, trains, and throwing a football. You have got to make sure you keep him away from those quick out routes, those RPOs, so on and so forth, because that's in those corner routes, because that's how Mendoza beat Oregon last time. There was not really a whole lot of deep balls per se. It was a lot of, as Lanning would say, 1,000 cuts, 1,000 cuts. Just first down, first down, first down, first down. That's all you need. Extremely, extremely disciplined football. Oregon has to play A-plus disciplined defense to force Indiana to make mistakes, because Indiana ain't going to make mistakes on their own. You have to make them make mistakes. We haven't really seen that yet. The only one really was probably Finney's pick 6 on Mendoza. And look how he came back from that. And on defense, when Indiana's on defense and Oregon's on offense, you got to be able to run the ball. And I say this knowing that it's incredibly difficult to think that's going to happen right now with how thin we are at running back now, post-injury and transfer portal. But you got to be able to run the ball enough that mistakes will be made in their tackling, and they're going to make mistakes in pass coverage, so you give Dante enough time because he's still not really ready for the pros yet, in my opinion. I think it'd be a massive mistake for him to leave to the pros. I think that Dante Moore is smart enough to know that. If he is smart enough to have transferred back to Oregon, sit out a year behind Gabriel, he is smart and mature enough to know he needs to come back for another year before going to the NFL. It'd be a mistake too early. I do not know why. I do not know why media members and people on the internet are so impatient when it comes to sending guys pro now. I do not get it. Why they think, oh yeah, Dante's just going to start 1 year and going to go to the pros. Why? Because then these are the same people that complain that the NFL has terrible quarterbacking. Well, you don't let these guys develop in college. What do you think is going to happen? Stop pushing these guys too early. Anyway. Dante Moore, his biggest flaw is handling pressure. And not necessarily. The thing is when quarterbacks get pressure and it throws off their rhythm, their clock begins to speed up if it becomes a pattern. And that doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Say, okay, I'm just going to have less time today. I'm going to make my decisions based on that. But I do think Dante's brain goes a little faster than his body in the sense of like, okay, my time is going to be a little bit quicker. My clock is quicker. I got to make this decision. But that also, it goes so fast for him that he then sort of like hesitates or makes too quick of a decision. So, they got to give Dante time. And part of that is being able to run the ball and passing the ball, obviously, will have to do with the O-line. Obviously, both things have to do with the O-line. But you got to take some of the weight off Dante. Now, Oregon's biggest thing that they have shown this year as a whole is that they have proven themselves to a degree to be a multi-dimensional team. Now, if the run game's not doing well, Dante Moore at least has been somewhat capable enough of putting the team on his back and winning through the air. And vice versa. If Dante Moore's having a rough game, it has seemed to come that Oregon has then been able to run the ball to victory behind Davison, Hill, and Whittington. And so Hill and Whittington are going to have to take another sixth of the load, half of a third or whatever, because Davison is gone for this game. They're going to have the best, one of the better games of their career, if not the best games of their career, to not only take the load off of Dante and the O-line in general, and the defense, Oregon's defense, to keep them fresh. But I mean, Dante is going to have to be able to handle that pressure, is basically what I'm going to say. And part of that will be in the run game, but then, because here's the thing, with Dante, if he has a certain amount of pressure, he just doesn't look deep. Even when there are guys who are wide open deep and he doesn't need to wait to throw it, it'll be a touchdown anyway. Like last game, there was a wide open touchdown to Kenyon Sadiq, but I could tell he was already decided to throw to his check down because of the pressure that he was feeling, where if he just threw it up to Sadiq, it would have been gone anyway. He doesn't have to wait for that route to go, keep developing to make that particular throw. So you need to be able to take enough of a load off Dante to then allow him to think, I can throw deep. So that's all. Now, Oregon on defense, Mateo needs to have another great day like he did at Texas Tech. Tatum needs to do his thing. They have got to outside contain and get blistering pressure on Mendoza. The only time Alabama was even close to getting anywhere at the beginning of the game with Indiana was that they had pressure on Mendoza. That is the key. Pressure, 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 pressure. And it has to be quick, too, because, again, like I said, it's like the old days of Arizona with Nick Foles when they would play Oregon. There's a lot of quick outs, screens, slants, West Coast offense, run and shoot, West Coast offense style to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. Get your hands up and get immediate pressure. And Oregon, I think, needs to blitz more. I don't remember them blitzing very much against Indiana. They need to figure out a way to get after Mendoza and get him uncomfortable, because that's the key. That is the key to things. And, of course, sort of stopping the run like usual. Now, I know the odds are getting by the minute more and more against Oregon in this game. I still think there is a chance. I think it's relatively difficult right now, but there is a chance. Just as much as anybody else. This is why you play the games. Indiana is looking unstoppable right now, and the team of destiny. It's just really hard. I understand all the people that are sort of going against Oregon and going on Indiana right now, because it's really hard not to. But obviously the biggest keys of the game is absolute pressure on Mendoza. Make him run for his life every single play. And obviously stop the run like usual, but I think the bigger key is get after Mendoza. Do not give him the opportunity to get that ball past the line of scrimmage, whether by batting it down or sacking him. Just get after him relentlessly. Do not let him run around the edges to extend the plays. And the secondary needs to ball out, because now, granted, that one play that Surratt pushed off on Iffy, I still maintain that to this day, but the secondary needs to have the game of their lives. They had a very good development and learning moment against Indiana last game. So I'm hoping to see that they play up to their potential standards against Indiana this game, because there's no other time like now to do it. It can be done. Finney needs to have a day again. Iffy Obadiwu needs to have his breakout game, I think. Thieneman, I think, I would say maybe needs to be a little more aggressive in coverage. He's very good at both. But he's definitely been a run stopper. It's been nice to have. But I think he definitely needs to have, on the coverage side of his game, he needs to have a career game on that front too. Flowers, I think, as well. He actually played very good coverage too. He almost had an interception himself against Texas Tech. But they have got to have the safeties. The safeties and the corners need to have the games of their lives, frankly. And as for the linebackers, they need to be way more physical than they were against Indiana last time. And I think George Reister pointed this out, that when you have your linebackers making tackles from their back, that's not a good sign. And he was saying that in relevance to the Indiana game that had just occurred. And Betcher got a nice, good lick in on the pass pro against Texas Tech. So we all know he can hit. These guys need to be popping pads this game. And I think mentally they'll be a little more ready for it, I think, than the first time around. We will see. But again, I know Indiana has had their issues with injuries and stuff going into the playoffs and throughout the playoffs. But with the way things have been playing out this week for Oregon, I think a lot of people are extremely nervous just how depleted the roster is at the moment, and those depth pieces being gone. So the best way to not get injured is to be the one running through. That's what I always taught in football was if you brace for a hit and you let them hit you, you're going to get hurt. But if you run right through them and you out physical them, you have less of a chance of getting hurt. And so Oregon needs to be pad popping sensational this week. So we will see how that plays out in as far as that game, and then we will discuss the result of it, whether it's a good result or a bad result at a later time. At that time in the Peach Bowl. I think it should be a good game no matter what. This is the moment of truth game for Oregon for sure, though. They need to play and leave everything they possibly can on that field. The offense needs to show up and play their A-plus game to give their defense a break. The defense needs to play their A-plus game to give the offense a break, and be the reason why the game is won. I don't think you need to be getting in a shootout with Indiana. But that's just the bottom line. I think that's everything that I have to say as it was for now. I think I covered everything that I possibly can. So I think that is everything that I have to say. And so that leaves just one more thing to say. And that is thank you for watching. And, well, I guess go Ducks.